Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, August 9th at about 9:10 in the morning. I look a little sleepy, don't I? A little earlier session than usual. My name is Larry Cedar, and I'm back with you for another session on what I sometimes call scanning, but I'm calling expansion now. We're going to basically just keep talking about expansion. Keep discussing this concept of mine, which is basically that as you incrementally release the muscles of your body, it relaxes your mind and emotions, opens you up in many, many ways that are beneficial to your life. So just going to continue the discussion, and I want to start today's session by saying that this isn't a technique that I have perfected and I am now sharing with the world. This is something which is an ongoing process for me. I am constantly practicing this technique as a means of perfecting it and as a means of testing its usefulness and effectiveness. I've been doing it for many years. I will hopefully be doing it for the rest of my life. It is an always evolving technique. The reason I am so dedicated to it, the reason I stick with it, is because it works. It works. And I say it works because I use it on myself on a regular basis. I come to these sessions in a fairly calm state of mind, relaxed or whatever, but typically I, like most people, fluctuate throughout the day and the week and the month and the year between states of calm clarity and states of confused, obsessive confusion. As particular issues come up in my life and I have to deal with them, I am subject to the same weaknesses and strengths as anyone else. And there's times when I, to be perfectly honest, freak out about things, things which are difficult. The circumstances we're living in right now, my career, any number of things can really put me on edge. And that's part of the reason I started practicing this technique as a way to calm myself down and center myself. And, by way of example, I want to start with something that just happened to me just recently, and then we'll get into the practice of the technique. I'll just, in a very general sense, say there's something that was going on in the house, something that had to do with a fixing of something in the house. And I won't get specific, but was obsessing me. I was so obsessed with this particular aspect of the house that needed to be worked on or fixed or repaired or whatever. And it was driving me insane, either because it hadn't been done correctly or because it wasn't to my liking. In any case, it just filled my mind with just angry, obsessive thoughts about how do I fix this? What do I do? It's driving me crazy. And that, among other things, was bothering me a tremendous amount last night, shall we say, in the middle of the night. And I took myself through these series of steps, which I call expansion. And I brought myself to a calmer state, and I went back to look at that particular thing, that same exact item that had been driving me crazy for days. I mean, just really making me upset and angry, and it didn't bother me at all. I saw what the problem was. I saw it needed to be addressed and fixed. And I thought to myself, yeah, I'll take care of that at some point. It'll be okay. And I was fine with it. And what that told me was that circumstances, events don't change. Your perspective on those things is what is changed, is what can be changed. And this is what allows you to be calm and centered and relaxed and at peace. And I always use the example, because we're talking about expansion, of two closed fists, which cannot come together at all, and two open, expanded fists, which are now hands, which can merge. So as you become enlightened, as you become relaxed, as you become expanded, everything's the same. The materials are all the same. What's allowed for is that there's more space. So you can incorporate and accept the different aspects of your reality. You can absorb them, take them in, see them for what they are, and not freak out about them. You can just see them for what they are. In a way, enlightenment, expansion, is a form of acceptance. Acceptance. It doesn't change your intent that you want to fix something or do something. It doesn't change anything but how you feel about it. In other words, rather than looking at something and saying, I can't stand this, I don't want it to exist, it bothers me, I must make it go away, I must deal with it, you go, I don't like this, but I accept that it's real. I accept it. I make it a part of my universe. I no longer am fighting it. I decide what I'm going to do to deal with it, but it's not a matter of panic or anything. It's just a matter of accepting. So expansion is a form of acceptance. So what this technique, which I've called scanning, but I basically is a form of expansion, does, it allows you to incorporate everything that's happening into your life, to absorb it, to accept it, to see it for what it is, calmly, patiently, with intelligence and clarity. Calm yourself down and move forward. That's all it is. So it's a way of stabilizing. It's a way of integrating things into your life in a way where you're not constantly at war with life and with yourself. So that's what we're doing. This technique has no political alliance. It has no religious alliance. It's no real particular philosophy. It's basically, the approach of this technique is to enable you to see everything that happens in your life, to experience everything that happens in your life calmly, clearly, intelligently, and peacefully, so that the seas are not as rough. We'll just put it that way. It calms the seas. If you're at a very rough, stormy ocean, if your life is this constant waves and throwing you here and throwing you there and fighting and resisting, it allows you to calm those seas and float through your life with greater clarity and ease. You can't stay that way all the time. You know, we're human. We're going to be crazy now and then. But when you need it, when you need to calm yourself down, when you need to find that kind of clarity, this technique works very well. So let's get into the technique. Basically, it comes down to this. Everything in life is either in a state of contraction, squeeze your hands together, or expansion, release. These are the ideas from a man named Thaddeus Golis, who wrote a book called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, which you can read for more background, but it basically boils down to that. Everything in life is either in a state of contraction or expanded, or somewhere in between. That's the first rule. Rule 2, you cannot contract and expand at the same time. So you are either tending towards contraction or tending towards expansion. When we are upset, when we are unhappy, when we are confused, when we are obsessively thinking about things, when we are physically racked with discomfort, tension, and pain, we are typically overly contracted. There's nothing wrong with contraction. Contraction is the stuff of life. Contraction is physical effort. It's making plans. It's building things. It's thinking things. It's saying things. These are all contractions, the bringing together of materials and forces to achieve a goal. However, when you become overly contracted, you become restricted. You become constrained, you become confused, you become obsessed, you become limited. You are in a state of denial, or what I call a state of no. That's what we talked about earlier. You are not accepting of your reality. You're fighting your reality. You are at war with yourself. So how do we solve that? When we are overly contracted, we move ourselves into a state of expansion. How do we do that? In this particular case, this technique uses the musculature of the body to induce a state of expansion. Muscles can either contract or expand, just like the forces of life. They're the perfect metaphor for life. Contract or expand. If you are contracted, typically your muscles are contracted as well. If you're having obsessive thoughts, typically your body is also responding and is tight. So instead of working from the mind to the body, trying to convince ourselves to relax, this technique works from the body to the mind. All we focus on, the beauty and simplicity of this technique, all we focus on is releasing muscular tension as a means of expanding our entire consciousness, our entire state of being. But we simplify it by simply focusing on the muscles. If you can release the musculature of your body, your emotions and your mind will follow. So that's it. So I've been talking for about 10 minutes already. So enough with the theory, enough with the explanations. Let's get right into it. Squeeze your hands together. Tight. This squeezing of the hands, we start the technique this way because this is a perfect metaphor for our state of being when we are overly contracted. Now, how do I know I'm overly contracted? Well, I'll make it as simple as I can for you. I feel bad. I feel bad. I don't feel good. I'm unhappy. I'm stressed. I'm confused. I'm obsessing about something. I don't know how to solve a problem. I'm angry. I'm in denial. I don't want to accept some reality of my life. I'm just upset. I feel bad. Generally speaking, that means you're overly contracted because when you are expanded, whatever's going on is fine. You have room for everything. When you're contracted, there's no room. You're in denial. So we squeeze the hands together as a metaphor for an overly contracted state. And we squeeze our hands together very tightly, tight as you can, just to feel that. That's your state of being. That's what's making you unhappy. So just hold that for a moment, because this technique has a lot to do with sense. Heightened sense of your state of being. We're really going to tune in to where we're at physically as a means of understanding ourselves. You know, a lot of times we have problems, and keep squeezing, because we really don't know what's going on with us. You know, people go to therapy. They try to talk their way out of the problem. They're trying to understand. We're desperately trying to understand ourselves. Why did I do that? Why is this happening to me? What do I do now? So we do this as a way of studying ourselves on a very physical level. Keep squeezing. Contracted. Overly contracted. Now, how does that feel? Tight? Perhaps you're holding your breath. It feels a little uncomfortable. Rigid? Tight? So how do we go from a state of overly contracted into a state of expansion? Simple. We just let go. 3, 2, 1, release. Drop your hands and take a deep, deep breath. So we just moved ourselves from a state of contraction, you felt that, into a state of expansion. Now you say, but I didn't do anything. I just released my hands. Start small. The way to practice this technique is through the incremental release of muscular tension. So we had our hands in a contracted state. This represented us, and we made a decision, because it's up to you. You can change your state of being at any time to expand. 3, 2, 1, release. Let go. Drop your hands. Take a deep breath. So by doing this simple step, we did a couple of things. First of all, we literally expanded. This was our first of many muscular releases we're going to do in this next 20 minutes. First one. We did it, which in itself relaxed your body just the slightest amount. So you started down the road towards expansion. Remember, when you're expanding, you can't contract. So the minute you begin to expand, you've started down the road towards expansion. Secondly, we reminded ourselves that it's in our control, that we have complete control over our state of being. No matter what's happening to us, we can at any time expand and change our state of consciousness. You just did it. Do it again. Squeeze your hands together. Tight, tight, tight. 3, 2, 1, release. Drop your hands. Take a deep breath. And sit for 15 seconds in stillness and silence. So these are the initial steps. Now these steps are can be sort of jarring. They take you into a physical kind of shift, a shift. You release, drop your hands, take deep breaths, and sit in stillness and silence. Now, if you've been contracted, you've been obsessing about something, you've been thinking about how you have to do something, you're worried about something, you're physically tight. We tend to hang on to it. When we're in a state of contraction, we tend to hang on to that as a form of security. We feel like if we stop contracting, we'll lose total control. Contraction is a step we take sometimes when we feel we have no control. I can't do anything about this problem, but if I worry about it, if I get tense about it, it feels like I'm doing something. So it makes you feel momentarily like you're in control. So you don't want to let go of that. Your worry is your control. Worry is all about control. I mean, why worry? Worry does nothing, but it makes you feel like you're doing something, so we continue to worry. So when you release, you've indicated to your body that we're going to stop contracting and we're going to start expanding. We're going to take a deep breath as another form of expansion, and we're going to sit for 15 seconds in stillness and silence. All of these are signals to the body. We are now going to start expanding. We've done enough contracting. We are now going to begin expanding. That can feel a little frightening, a little disorienting, and just uncomfortable. Hang on. But that's why we do it several times in a row. It's a sort of physical withdrawal, pulling yourself out of the contracted state. So let's do it again. Squeeze your hands together, tight, 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 real tight. That's you. On your count, you're going to decide to expand. 3, 2, 1, release. Drop your hands, take a deep breath. And another. One more. 15 seconds of stillness and silence. Close your eyes if you like. I love this. I love this part of the technique because typically when I start these sessions, I'm kind of maybe wound up a little bit about what I want to say and how it's going to go, and I tend to be speaking very quickly, and I have a lot to say. And then the moment I start doing these techniques on myself, in other words, as I begin to expand, everything slows down. One of the first effects I feel in taking these initial expansive steps is a reduction of the sensations of compulsion. Compulsion is a form of contraction. I need to do, I need to do, I need to think, I need to say, I need to worry. Contraction. As you begin to take the foot off the gas, I guess you might say, take your foot off the gas, the compulsion starts to dissipate. And I suddenly feel less inclined to say or do anything. I begin to value the silence and the stillness, which is expansion. That's always the immediate effect for me. I get outside of my head and more aware of my surroundings. I'm expanding. I'm making room for everything. And I'm just telling you this because I feel it's useful to share with you what my experience is of this technique. Now, you may have a different experience, but generally speaking, it's the same for everyone. We go from a state of contraction into a state of expansion, and we begin to sort of slow down, calm down. So let's do this one more time, and then we're going to move into the specific muscle work, because again, what we're doing is muscular release today. Squeeze your hands together, tight, tight, tight. Now already I notice it doesn't hurt so much. As my muscles have begun to relax through this expansive action, everything's working better. Everything's better when you relax. Everything. Squeeze tight, 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 tight. That's contraction. That's where you're at. Feel what that feels like to be contracted, to be making an effort, to have a compulsion to do, to take action, to hold on to that action. These are all compulsive feelings. 3, 2, 1. Completely release. Drop your hands and take 3 deep breaths this time. Again, we're expanding. One more. This time, 30 seconds of stillness and silence. So there's going to be times in your life when you feel contracted. And again, basic definition contraction, I feel bad. I feel bad. I feel like I'm fighting my circumstances, my environment, myself. I'm constricted. I'm closed off. I'm going to tell you a lot of things that you can do with this technique, but at its basic, most basic, if you want to expand, take a deep breath. That's the one thing you can always do at any time in your life. That is a basic expansion. You're expanding the lungs. You're letting go of muscular tension. You have to release tension to expand. You're filling yourself with oxygen, which is typically depleted when you've been contracted, because when we're tense, when we're obsessed, we tend not to breathe as much. We're holding our breaths. So if you could do nothing else but that bare minimum, take many, many deep breaths and then sit in stillness and silence and let your body adjust to that expanded state. It's a shift. It's a paradigm shift. You're shifting from a state of contraction into a state of expansion. It can be jarring. It can be disorienting. You can feel dizzy. But you'll notice, if you continue to do it, you'll start to feel still, calm, quiet, at peace. A certain clarity will begin to infuse your mind and body. You'll feel still, and you'll be okay with that. So again, by way of reminder, at minimum, take deep breaths. We're going to do it one more time, just to reinforce that. We're moving ourselves from a state of contraction into a state of expansion. We're not talking about belief systems. We're not talking about philosophies. I'm not advising you as to how to approach your life or how to hear things from people or how to say things to people. This isn't a self-help book in terms of like a new approach, a new technique, to a new strategy. It's simply a way of changing your state of being so that anything you want to do, any book you want to read, anything you want to say, any career you want to pursue, anything you're doing will be improved because you will be more expanded. Your eyes will be opened. You'll be more sensitive to your environment. You'll be more at peace with the moment. You'll be more tuned into your reality so you can make more intelligent, effective decisions. That's all this is changing your state of consciousness, your state of being. Terrible things may be happening in your life, and I hope they're not, but that won't change. What will change is how you see those things and how you cope with and deal with them. It's the hardest thing for me. It's been the hardest thing for me to accept, and I think for a lot of people to accept that these type of techniques don't necessarily, quote unquote, improve your life. They don't necessarily change your circumstances. They don't necessarily make you suddenly a millionaire. They don't suddenly make you succeed in relationships or whatever. They don't change anything. What this technique changes is how you see your life. And that you are accepting of everything that's happening, and you are more effectively able to process what's happening, so that if there is an opportunity to improve your circumstances, you have a better chance of doing that because you're seeing things more clearly. You're not contracted and closed off. You're expanded and open. That's all this does. It's a way of... It's foundational. It's basically a way of saying, you're going to be thrown into life today, and who knows what's going to happen. Good things may happen, bad things may happen. But if you have this foundational change, where you know that when you step into your life, you will see things more clearly, more calmly. You can more effectively push your life into a direction that's best for you. That's all this is. Okay, so once again, assuming we're in a contracted state, this is us. Squeeze your hands together, tight, 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 tight. Again, it's amazing to me how after just a few passes, my hands already feel, they don't hurt. I feel stronger. My squeezing feels more effective. Again, when you're relaxed, everything works better. Your muscles, your mind, your emotions, everything. So we're slightly more relaxed now, so everything just feels easier. Everything is more effective. And this is what will happen when you're more expanded. Everything you do, you'll do more effectively. Squeeze tight, 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 tight. That's you in a state of contraction. On my count, you're going to decide, because it's within your control, to change your state of being by simply expanding, letting go of all muscular tension. 3, 2, 1, release. Drop your hands. Take 3 deep breaths. As deep as you can. Total expansion. One more. Now allow your body to adjust to the shift from contraction into expansion. 15, 30 seconds of stillness and silence. So some of you may know me, some of you who don't, but I am an actor by profession. So I'm fairly sensitive to what's going on in my body. That's what we're all about, as actors. And I've been doing this technique for many years. So you would think that I would be able to induce this state of relaxation much more easily, and that I would, be able to just do this like that. The amazing thing is what I've discovered, again, is nothing's changed about me in the years I've been doing this. I'm just as neurotic and high-strung a person as I ever was. I just obsess about things, I worry. None of that's changed. The only thing that's changed is I have this technique I can go to that will help me. What also hasn't changed is how easily I find to do this, to practice this. It's as hard for me to practice now as it was the day I started it. The only thing that's different is now I have a knowledge base, I have a track record, so I know it works, but it's still hard to get myself to do it. And I can sit for hours being worried and obsessed about something and thinking, I really should go what I call scan. I really should scan now, it would really help me. I know I should, that would really help me. I know it does because I practice it, and if I do it, it'll help me, so I should do it. And I'll go like 2 hours. Then I'll finally sit my ass down and start to do the actual expansion, the muscular relaxation, and then I feel better. But I, like anyone, do not want to let go of my contracted state. Worry, anxiety is a form of control. I don't want to let go of that control. Now, rationally, I know I'll feel better if I do, but it doesn't make it any easier to start. So if you can just get yourself to start. The physical relaxation, the actual muscular relaxation, I always say it's like a kid's running around the room, like a crazy kid, had too much sugar. The physical muscular relaxation is like grabbing a kid by the collar and saying, come here, sit down, time out. You have to physically take control of your being. These deep breaths, the muscular release we're about to do, these are ways of physically taking control of your being. I always say you can't think your way out of a thinking problem. If you're obsessing about something and you're thinking about it, you can't think your way out of that problem. You need to stop thinking. How do we stop thinking? We focus on the physical. We take ourselves into a physical task that is so all-consuming, that takes so much of our concentration, that it literally disconnects us from the mind and thereby calms the mind. I think therapy is a wonderful thing. I've done my share of therapy. There are issues that need to be worked out and talked about. But I think it has its limits, because I think that thinking about things is what gets us into a negative state sometimes. So to go to someone and talk about things some more, to think some more, I think can be counterproductive. I found that the effectiveness of muscular release removes the thinking component and calms the mind as a side effect. I think the benefit of therapy is that it's a person communicating with another. I think what helps about therapy is it gets it out of your head, and you've created a circuit between you and another person, which I think is the most healing thing in the world. I think it's the being with someone and being able to share that is actually healing. But the actual thinking and obsessively thinking and talking, I think, can be limiting. So we've done this technique, we've done what I call the first phase of this technique. And that's the squeeze and release, the deep breaths, and the sitting in stillness and silence. So now we move on to the specific, how many times can you say that? Specific muscle work. This is the real meat and potatoes of the technique, the nuts and bolts. And if I can think of another analogy, I'll give you that one too. If you can concentrate on incrementally releasing the muscles of your body, it will in turn calm your mind, expand your consciousness, calm you, put you in a place of clarity, peace, and comfort. So let's start. We start with what I call the 8 muscular zones, and I break them down as a way to isolate them so it's easier to focus on. Now, if I tell you to squeeze your hands and release, you can do it. We use our hands all the time. To actually incrementally release the muscles of the various parts of the body we may not be so familiar with. If I tell you to scrunch up your face and then release it, you can do that. We use our face a lot. Other areas not so easy, and we'll get to those. But let's start, the hands are the easiest. Let's go to the second one. It's actually zone 1, but let's try relaxing the muscles of the face. So on my count, I want you to concentrate and see if you can feel the sensation of release that comes over your face on your command. 3, 2, 1, release. Now I let my face kind of slouch a little bit, like a hound dog. What you're looking for, and you're doing this with me now, we're going to study this together. I want you to look for that sensation of, I say it's a release, but it's also a relief. We tend to have a low level of tension in every muscle in our body all day and night. Even when we're sleeping, we tend to have a small amount of tension. It's like a low voltage circuit that's always running. And what I want you to do is flip the switch and turn off that circuit completely. So watch my hands. 3, 2, 1. I want you to turn off the power to your muscles. And I want you to search for that feeling so that when you do that, you have the sensation of like the muscles have just let go. That's what we're going to try to induce throughout the entire body. We're going to do it zone by zone. And you're going to practice this, and you're going to get better and better at it until you can induce this muscular release on command. It is the surest way to change your state of consciousness. I'm promising you, right here, this is the fundamental basis of this technique. If you can learn to incrementally release the muscular tension in your body, and it can be any part, you can start anywhere, but the idea is to ultimately release all the muscular tension in your body. This will calm your mind, it will free your emotions, it will put you in a state of peace. The reason is this. The mind is in a sense a muscle. It can be contracted and expanded just like the other muscles. The body wants to unify. As you start to release muscular tension in one part of the body, the rest of the body wants to join in. It's just the way the body works. If you feel a pain here, sometimes you feel it in your foot. It's one unit. So as you start to induce this sense of relaxation, muscular release into your body, your mind picks up on that. Your mind, like a muscle, is holding obsessively to thoughts and worries and concerns. It releases that hold. Those thoughts and concerns just float away. And you will find yourself, when you're completely muscularly relaxed, thinking about absolutely nothing. Guys, you ever have your wife say to you, or guys, you ever have your girlfriend say to you, what are you thinking about? Okay, it's a way to connect. I understand that. And you're usually thinking about something. But you'll be amazed when you do this technique. You will find, someone will say, what are you thinking about? And you will say, joyfully, nothing. Nothing. My mind is clear. It's not an easy state to get to, but there's absolutely nothing like it when you're there, because you are calm and at peace and accepting of your environment and circumstances. Whatever concerns or worries you have, they're not bothering you at that moment. You know, problems don't go away, but you can set them aside. We all deserve to have a few minutes a day of peace and calm and clarity. It's replenishing, it's rejuvenating, and when you go back to your problems, you face them with much more effectiveness. So, back to the face. 3, 2, 1, release. So if I was to say to you, what is the purpose of these sessions? It's practice. If you wanted to become a concert pianist, you practice. This is a form of practice, of a technique which you may not be familiar with right now, but you will get really, really good at, and that's the sensation of muscular release. The first phase of what we did in this session was to kind of shock us out of our state of contraction. You have to pull ourselves out. It's like a little kid hiding in the corner of a room, and he's scared and doesn't want to come out, and he's worried and crying. You say, get out of that corner. Come on, come out here. So you've pulled yourself out of that corner of contraction. Then we start the actual work, the face. 3, 2, 1, watch for it. So that little sensation of release. You could try this anywhere, anytime. You could be sitting in a coffee shop. You could be sitting in your car. You could be stuck in traffic. And just go 3, 2, 1, release. And just watch for that feeling. And now do that like 10 times in a row. And notice how it starts to get easier. But you have to make the decision to do it. We like to hold on to this, as I said, low level of tension. We like to hang on to it as a form of security. It's like a security blanket. I take my tension with me everywhere. It keeps me protected. So we're reluctant to let it go. Start working on that. You don't need to be holding tension. You're sitting here. There's no reason to be holding on to muscular tension. Saps your energy, first of all. You can't contract a muscle without exerting energy. If my hand doesn't need to be clenched, let it go. Save that energy for something else. Something more fun. Zone 2, the top of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. There's that slight spreading sensation. That's what you're looking for. That's what we're practicing. That's what I'm trying to help you understand and tune into with these sessions. Top of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. Zone 3 is the back of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. So now you should feel like almost like a hood of relaxation. You've done the front, the face, the top, and the back, so you should feel this slight relaxed sensation. Now, you might very well say, I'm not feeling anything. I don't feel any different. Again, I've been doing this for years. Sometimes I'll sit down and start to do this, and I go, I'm not feeling anything. That no, that refusal to tune into this relaxation is a form of resistance. It's a form of denial. It's a desire to hold on to the muscular control. Even as you're trying to do it, you're saying, I don't want to do it. Keep going. You can push past that. You know, we set up more resistance to helping ourselves than anyone in the world. You know, we are our own worst enemy sometimes. And we're holding on to tension and contraction because we feel like it's protecting us. But you know better. You know it's creating tension and fatigue, anxiety. You know you'd be better off just being calm and relaxed. You know. But we don't want to let go. So you're going to face a lot of your own resistance. Man, if I tell you how many times I've sworn I wasn't going to pick up my cell phone and look at Facebook and Instagram and the news because I knew it wasn't good for me, that it would make it so I couldn't sleep. If I told you how many times I promised this is the last time after I go to bed in the middle of the night, I'm not going to look at my phone, like a million times maybe, and yet I'll still go back to it. We can be our own worst enemy, but we can also work against that. Practice. Zone 4 is the neck. 3, 2, 1, release. And there's a slight dropping sensation. There's a letting go sensation. As I say, it's a release and it is a relief. You will feel the impulse to take a breath. That's your body saying, no, man, I've been so uptight. You're letting go. I can actually breathe now. Take those breaths. That's a really good sign. If you feel an impulse to take a breath, that's a really good sign that you've started to expand. Take as many breaths as you like. They're free, they're limitless, and they're incredibly healing. Deep breaths, if nothing else. Zone 5 is the shoulders. 3, 2, 1, release. And that's, again, that slight dropping sensation, you know. Now, you know, people will say, why should I do this? My life is great. Why should I let go of the tension? You know, it's good to be tense, man. It keeps me alive, keeps me effective, you know. Well, it's up to you. It's up to you. You know, there's no rules here. Again, this is not a philosophy that I've promised anyone is going to make your life better than it already is. You may have a sensational life, God bless, I think it's great. But if you think it could be better, if you think you could have more peace, if you sense within you that you're beating yourself up all day, or that you're worrying too much, or that you're too controlling, or that you just can't quite put things together because you're just fighting everything, then perhaps expansion can help you. And that's all this is. Incremental muscular release, which leads to a state of expansion. Physical, emotional, and mental calm. The shoulders, let them drop. 3, 2, 1, tiny bit. Now, in teaching this technique, I am in a way defeating myself, and I'll explain to you why. How am I teaching this technique? I'm talking about it. What are words? Words are a contraction. What are we trying to do? Expand. I recommend, when you practice this technique, that you find a place where you can be still and silent. Silence is beautiful. Silence is a form of expansion. Why? Because words are a form of contraction. When you sit in stillness and silence, you are in a way letting go of control, letting go of contraction, and taking yourself to a place of expansion. Silence is beautiful. And by silence, I don't just mean a silent room, I mean a silent mind. Letting go of all those obsessive, contracted thoughts. Zone 6 is the chest and stomach down into the waist. 3, 2, 1. Remember, you're looking for that sense of release and relief. 3, 2, 1. You're tuning into your body and you're saying, where am I holding pockets of tension? The reason I call the technique scanning is because you are scanning your body, you're searching your body for pockets of tension. Where am I holding tension today? And sometimes it'll be more one area than another. Sometimes you have a place where you habitually hold tension, your neck, your back. And you're just going to let go of a little bit of that tension, a tiny bit. So don't feel like, oh God, I'm losing control. Tiny bit. Can you afford to let go of 1% of the tension in your back, which is next, zone 7, the back down into the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, release. Deep breaths are always good. By way of explanation, when you take a drink, if you have a shot, or you drink a beer, and you kind of wait for it to kick in, and then it will, and you'll go like, what is that feeling? The edge is off. Like the edge just goes off. You say, well, why are you having a drink? I got to take the edge off. What is that edge? That edge is holding on, tightness, contraction. Alcohol is a chemical way. It's a way of chemically forcing your body to relax. It literally makes the muscles so they can't contract. So it expands them. So that's great. I mean, if drinking helps you, I don't recommend it because I don't think it's very healthy. I'd rather do it naturally. But that's what you're looking for, is that sensation of, And you can induce that yourself without chemicals or alcohol or drugs. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to go find a bottle. You don't have to go find a pill. You don't have to find a joint. It can just happen right here. The back down into the pelvis. 3, 2, 1. Release. The final zone is down the legs, across the knees, and into the feet. 3, 2, 1. Let those feet go. Release. It's literally like learning a foreign language. We all have the ability to do this, but we've never studied it. We've never studied how to do that. We've found ways in our life to induce relaxation. We just instinctively, like I said, we'll go for a drink, we'll have a joint, we'll pop a pill, we'll go to a therapist, we'll go to a masseuse. We long for this sense of release and relief. We long for this. We crave it. We need it. We take vacations in Tahiti so that we can let go. That's all we need as a balance. Again, life is a contraction to expansion continuum. We go back and forth. It's only when we're overly contracted that we're miserable. And we know we need to release, relax, expand. So this technique, all this is a way to do that for yourself without having to drive to a therapist, a chiropractor, or a masseuse, without having to spend money on booze or pills or joints, without having to put chemicals in your body, without having to use some external process to achieve this state. There's nothing better than knowing that you have within you the power to heal yourself. It's the greatest feeling. I can fix myself. We tend to feel powerless in life sometimes. It's like life is happening to me and there's nothing I can do, and how do I fix it? And it's really nice to know that you can fix yourself. And I'm not kidding. When I tell you I get messed up, in the head, I mean, I get confused and obsessed and angry and, just like anybody. I mean, and for me right now, at this point in my life, one of the greatest, most calming things is that I know I have this tool, this technique, to bring myself to a place of peace and calm. Again, it doesn't change the circumstances of my life one bit. It doesn't bring me money or fame or glory or anything. It doesn't even necessarily bring me happiness. It allows me to come to a place where I can effectively work towards those things. Where I've removed the cloud of contraction, where I've removed the constraints and all the constrictions that make you less effective in life. You want to be at your most effective in life. You want to wake up and go, I'm in the best place I can be to deal with my particular challenges. I don't want to be hamstrung, literally have a ball and chain around my leg that is obsessive compulsive thought, that's like anger or defensiveness or confusion or insecurity. I don't want to have that stuff slowing me down. I may or may not succeed in my life at the things I want to achieve. I may or may not achieve total happiness, but I don't want to be hung up by things that I have control over. If I can free myself of these constraints, these worry, anxiety, compulsive thoughts, if I can clarify, have a moment of stillness and calm and peace, so then I can face my problems effectively, I got a good shot. I got a much better shot at succeeding. Get out of my own way, basically. So what have we done? 2 basic phases to this thing I call scanning or expansion. 2 basic phases to this technique. I've drawn it out over, oh my goodness. Wow, this has been a long session. I've drawn it out over 45 minutes now, but it basically boils down to this. You are either in a state of contraction in life or a state of expansion. Squeeze, release. That's natural. Typically, when we feel bad, we are overly contracted. We want to move ourselves into an expanded state. How do we do that? Through the incremental release of muscular tension. That's it. If I said to you, the solution to all your problems is to relax, I've summed it up. That's it. And in particular, relax the muscles. So we start out in a contracted state. That's why we came to this place where we needed to do something. And we represented that by the squeezing of our hands. That's us. And we said, this is a choice. I can be in this state, or I can make a decision to move in the other direction. Expansion. How? Just do it. 3, 2, 1, release. See how different that feels? To be released and expanded as opposed to contracted, it feels different. My whole body just relaxed. I want to take a deep breath, so I will. I'll take another. One more. It's a little bit jarring because I was in a deeply contracted state and I pulled myself out into this expanded state, so I feel a little dizzy, a little disoriented. So I'm going to now take 15 seconds to adjust to that transition. Stillness and silence. And when you take a lot of deep breaths, you get dizzy. And I like to think of that as the sort of buzz of being freed. You've been constricted and now you're suddenly freed. You're released. So take a moment to adjust and see how that feels. Like I said, my first response when I move into a state of expansion is I suddenly feel calmer. I feel less of a compulsion to think about or worry about anything. I feel less of a compulsion to do something. I feel less of a compulsion to say something. I'm just in the moment. And then you continue down this path of expansion by incrementally releasing the muscles of the body. Again, if you're the type of person like me who tends to overly contract, you're going to be resistant to this expansion because this is our security blanket. This is what makes us feel in control when we're contracted. Muscularly, emotionally, mentally. We're worrying about things. We're obsessing about things. We feel like in control. So as you start to release musculature, you feel like you're letting go of that control, so it doesn't feel comfortable and you might resist it. Push through that. Once you get to the other side, when you are expanded, everything will be easier. Start with the face. 3, 2, 1. Release. Again, it's that slight dropping sensation. Top of the head. 3, 2, 1. Release. The back of the head. 3, 2, 1. Release. Deep breath. The neck. 3, 2, 1. Release. The shoulders, 3, 2, 1, release. The chest down into the stomach and waist, 3, 2, 1, release. Deep breath. Another. One more. 15 seconds of stillness and silence. Zone 7, the back down into the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, release. Zone 8, down the legs over the knees and into the feet. 3, 2, 1, release. Now don't be surprised if as you start to release and expand and relax, you start to have all kinds of disorienting feelings. Again, it's a little unsettling. To go from a state of secure contraction, even though it's got you wound up in knots, it still feels safe, to a state of expansion. It's like you've been in a cave, you're hidden away in the cave, and someone pulls you out by a rope into the sunlight, into this open field where you're completely exposed. It feels risky. Now, I always have an odd sensation, and it always surprises me because I always forget it. I start to feel emotional, and I go, what is that? Why am I feeling emotional? Almost like I want to cry. And what that is as we move into a state of contraction, you basically close off your emotions, you lock them away. You know, as a tool to find safety, control, we lock away our emotions so that we can deal more effectively with things without being confused by our emotions. Tension tension closes off emotions and sensations. As you release tension, you begin to once again feel all those emotions and sensations you tucked away. So I start to feel emotional. And usually that's because of the stress I've been carried around, you know, in my life or whatever. It's just kind of, I've hidden that away, you know. Life makes you want to cry sometimes. And it starts to come up. That's great. That's really good. Let that happen. Feel emotional, feel sensations, feel tingling, feel throbbing, feel again, feel, be in the moment, be in your body. You're letting go of all those constraints. The incremental release of muscular tension is releasing all those emotions and feelings. You're moving from a state of contraction into a state of expansion. When you are in a state of expansion, everything is fine. Everything's fine. You're accepting of all emotions, sensations, experiences, ideas. You're not at war with anything. You just see everything for what it is. You know, Thaddeus Golis, on whose ideas I base this, talks about how we like to be pendulums that swing only to one side. Pendulums always swing back and forth. You can't just be good, kind, wise, at peace all the time. Sometimes you're going to be angry, dark, confused, obsessed. That's life. To have a full life means to have the full spectrum. The trick is that when you're overly contracted and when you're stuck over here, is to find a way to pull yourself back towards expansion so you can have a balanced life, a more accepting, more at peace life. And that's all we're doing here. So again, I call it scanning. It's the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. Basically, expansion. If you want to read more about it, get the book by Thaddeus Golis called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment. It can be a little heady, but it's basically, you know, based on the idea that everything in life is either in a state of contraction or expansion or somewhere between the two, but you can't do both at the same time. So if you're contracted and you begin to expand, you're headed down the road to enlightenment and peace and calm and happiness. So take that small step of incremental muscular release as a way of starting that process and bringing yourself back to a place of peace. And that's it for today. Gee, it's 10 o'clock. This is a long session. Yeah, I try to be here like every couple days or so. And sometimes I repost the sessions, but I do have one posted now on Facebook. I think is fine. I don't think I need to repost one. This one was ridiculously long. You can also visit my Sqanning Facebook page, Sqanning, and you can see a lot more previous sessions. And you know, if you're interested, as a way to guide you through this process. But you know, just start. Take the smallest step and move yourself into a state of expansion and practice and remind yourself of what it feels like and study it and get better and better at it, and you will have found a way to bring yourself peace and calm in your life, and you will then more effectively be able to handle your life. And that's all. Have a great day, everyone. Now, rule number 1, love yourself. Bye.